It's day 17, and we just spent a whole bunch of days talking about a bunch of anime magical BS. So let's talk about a different type of magical BS, specifically space magic BS, with this Jedi Temple Guard from Star Wars: The Clone Wars. These are the guys that were in charge of guarding the Jedi Temple. An ancient honored heritage within the hallowed halls of the Jedi Temple was the role of the Temple Guard. They carried imposing, thick, double-bladed weapons that produced a rare and distinctive yellow blade. Anyway, one of these guys ended up becoming the Grand Inquisitor, as we saw in Star Wars Rebels. So, yeah, not all these guys were the greatest. Some of these people went and full-on turned traitor when Order 66 happened and joined the Inquisitores. I mean, some of those guys were, maybe a little bit justified from the standpoint of, in the case of the Grand Inquisitor, he felt the Jedi had lost their way during the war, which they absolutely had. He was not wrong, and I think seeing all the crap that happened to Ahsoka was, ironically, a little bit of a catalyst in that regard, but hey. Anyway, so the Temple Guard here is a pretty cool-looking design. We have this whole fancy, ornate, armored helmet here, just meant to give him anonymity. Very akin to a lot of guards in Star Wars history, I guess. And it is, draped along with this whole hard plastic cape here. This hood doesn't really move. And while the head does have some left to right movement, as you can see here, we can see the sides of the helmet right there. While it does have that movement is made very tricky and restricted by this hood. Because, hard plastic doesn't really move much of anywhere. It does have that whole standard 2 ball joint setup that a lot of Black Series heads have. It's just very limited. We do have some butterfly joints here in the shoulders. Shoulders also can come out to about here, it looks like. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky because they're a little bit tight on this guy. Plus we got, again, this it's softer plastic, but it's still very rigid softer plastic here for the whole cloak that goes around here. So that does restrict the arm movement a little bit. But yeah, we can get it up there still. And get that all the way around like that. What else? We have swivel here above the elbow. Some big elbow cuts that go a little bit more than 90 degrees. We have, what else? We have just wrist swivel here. Wrists appear to be ball jointed, it looks like, actually. There's no up and down cut, but they do have some ball joint play, so that's actually really nice. He's a little bit more posable than a lot of Black Series figures used to be in that regard. So that's kind of cool. You can see here we have a ball jointed waist. Lets him move around a lot. And let's just look at all the detail here. I really like the details on all these hooks. I like how they've painted these in a couple of different colors as well, too. It just looks really nice. We have this rigid plastic skirt here. It is still a little bit malleable, and it is split in the back, so that isn't really going to impede any leg movement. Underneath, we have this soft cloth skirt here, which I really like. They actually put the full border on this skirt as well, too. That's a nice little touch. I wish they had done some detail like this on, for instance, the Darth Sidious that they did in the Mace Windu 2-pack. But yeah, let's see what else. Legs can go up to about here. Legs can't actually come out that far. Interestingly enough, they're impeded less by this rigid skirt and more by the actual cloth skirt. I guess we could probably ride this up a little bit and get a little bit more out. But it's kind of funny that it's actually the soft parts that are a little bit more of an impedance than the harder rigid shell parts. What else? We do not really have much of a swivel up here, unfortunately. They have been cutting that joint on Star Wars figures, and it sucks. But 90-degree bend here, and we have a swivel right above the knee. And then after that, we just have, we have this boot. We have this boot ankle tilt right there. Just your standard Hasbro ankle tilts, and that's really about it for this guy's posability. Taking his sword right here. We can put his staff in his hand. It's just a standard double-bladed weapon there. There is enough room for him to dual wield it, And in fact, yes, we can actually get his arms around in order to have him wield it in like a more ceremonial type pose. There is enough give. I just need to get this hand around it as well. Well, not knocking the other hand out, but yeah, so just, yeah, he can do that. It's a little bit awkwardly posed right now, but, you know, play around with this a little bit, and it looks a little bit more natural already. The blades, like a lot of lightsaber blades, do pop out, so you do have that option as well, too. And the blade doesn't seem to... Oh, it does have a hook on it. It does have a little peg on it here, yes. And it does have a little peg hole, so if you want to, you can always extinguish his weapon. You can pop out the blades. And we can always just store it on his belt right over here. So yeah, you have that option as well too. Not bad. Not bad, honestly, at all. Anyway, yeah, that's the Jedi Temple Guard. He looks pretty ornate here. Pretty cool looking, honestly. Like, it's a really cool design. And it's one I probably would have ignored had we not had the story significance of how one of these Temple Guards was a Powin who we later found out became the Grand Inquisitor. But, yeah, I mean, he does look really good, and he's a good background extra for a shelf. So really, that's pretty good badge of honor for a Star Wars toy. Anyway, with that said, this is Techno, signing off.